What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of my channel. My name is Yangji, and today I will be talking about how I made it in my first year as an entrepreneur after I left my corporate job after spending about 3 years in corporate America and leaving the corporate job and how I made it. Now, some background information about myself was that I was in my corporate job, which paid about 60 something thousand dollars annually, and it was a pretty comfortable job for the most part financially, but it was a job that required quite a bit of commitment, and I would have to work about 10, 12 hours a day, including the traffic and commute that goes to the job, which would be about 2 hours, including traffic. So that was not something that I really enjoyed, taking 2 hours out of the day and really just spending it in traffic. So I decided to leave that job, and I really want to talk about some of the things that you would really need and what I really needed to actually make it through the first year, because the first year was a year full of doubts, full of hard work and persistence, and just being uncertain about what's really going to happen about the future, because you never really know. I just know that the last thing I really wanted to do was going back to my corporate job and just feeling really ashamed that, I left and I went to start a business and it failed, and I'm going to be going back to a job. So that was the last thing I really wanted to do. So, you know, when you really come to think about it, it's not really like the worst case scenario, because when I thought about it, if I had failed after I left my corporate job, the worst case scenario was I would have to find another corporate job to go back to. Versus, if I look back at when I first graduated college, the worst case scenario was I would be working in a minimum wage job, because I wouldn't be able to find that corporate job that pays you that good salary. So when you compare those two scenarios, it really wasn't that bad. Leaving a corporate job and failing, and then going back to a corporate job. So, when I come to think of it, when I come to think about it now, it's really not that bad of a scenario. But it was really in that time, my first year after leaving my job, that I really just don't want to go back to my corporate job because I don't want to fail. So I worked my ass off, and I did quite a few things. I was not as prepared as I needed to before I quit my corporate job, even though I had some sales and marketing skills, both in person and e-commerce. But it was not enough to actually make up for that corporate salary that I had, because when you first start out a business, you just don't know what's really going to happen. And even now, I'm on my almost, 3-year anniversary after leaving my corporate job. I still feel some uncertainty, but definitely not as much uncertainty as what it was before when I first quit my corporate job during my first year. And I had no experience back then. I just don't know what to expect. And after I quit, I didn't really have like a community to go to actually share about, like, how it feels to leave a corporate job. It was just not, that, at least not too noticeable to me that there was a community out there. But now it's like I'm starting to see more and more people like me, and people who just are willing to take that first step, leaving their corporate jobs and actually sharing their experience, their opinions a lot more openly on Facebook groups, on YouTube. So, I think if you're in that boat of after just having left that corporate job or a well-paying job to actually go and start your own business, it's a really honorable thing to do. And if you need a community out there, there are a lot of communities out there, either on YouTube. Big communities. I'm not sure if there's a lot of communities, but I've seen some pretty big communities. I'm in one my own, on my own, and it's not my own, but I've joined it from watching someone else's YouTube video. And I wish I had this when I first quit. It would have been a lot more encouraging than to actually just be working on your own and not really sure when the light at the end of the tunnel is really gonna be when you're just working on your own. So first year is gonna be a lot of persistence. I think that's just gonna go with all years, all subsequent years that comes when you're out there working on your own. That goes with everything, but first year is gonna be a lot of persistence. It's gonna be a lot of time spent doing not necessarily the smartest and most efficient things for your business. And what I mean by this is you're just gonna be doing a lot of ground zero work. You're just working just constantly. You don't know what's like. You're still just trying to pick up that experience. I was trying to figure out what's smart to do and what's not smart to do, and how to spend my time wisely with things. For example, I was running both a physical sales business. I was selling wedding suits, and that was a very in-person sales business. It was fun, and I got a lot of great sales and marketing skills from that, as well as e-commerce sales and marketing experience. But like I mentioned earlier, it was not bringing in a consistent income in my first year, so I really had to go and make up some of that somewhere else. And so what I did was I had to drive an Uber for about, I think on the average, it was about 6 to 8 hours a day, because I was just really not sure what I was doing even when I was driving an Uber. It really took me like about more than 6 months to kind of get the hang of how to drive an Uber wisely, efficiently. That is, to know what routes to take, what routes not to take. But anything before that, it was just like, just go and do whatever you need to do. It doesn't matter if it's smart or not. You just go and just put the work in. And I think that's with everything. When you first start, it's like you really just have to put in the work before you learn how to work smart. So that was what my first year was about. It was a lot of building my business, a lot of just making up for that income, because I was living on my own and I was paying for my own expenses. I didn't want to move back home and kind of get under my parents' roof again. It would have been, I think I made the right decision on just kind of sticking it out on my own and just paying for my own stuff and just really working hard out there, versus the other scenario, just going back home and saving money. I'm not sure if that would have been, if it would have developed me the same way it did as when I was living out on my own. Because when I was living out on my own, it's just a sense of urgency. I know I had shit to pay for. Just pay for rent, pay for student loans, pay for my own food. So I know I had all that stuff to pay for, and I would not be able to be lazy. And that was what it was, just being out there, just consistently working hard. And then sooner or later, after about 6 months or so, I had, some ideas on how to work smarter and just save time on things I have to do. So, for example, on driving an Uber and just trying to make my expenses, I had been able to drive less and spend less time on the road, because after 6 months, it's like I kind of had more of an idea of what to do and what not to do. So when you figured out what not to do, that's going to save you quite some time, because you're just going to kick out the crap out of your schedule and just only do the stuff that's really smart for you to do, and the stuff that's really just making you money and making me money. So you kick out the stuff that's not making you money. You kick out people who were wasting your time. For example, I was aside from driving an Uber, I was selling wedding suits, and there were a lot of propositions from people like other professionals. There were customers, and you kind of just learn how to screen propositions from other professionals and customers. You kind of learn which customers are more likely to buy your stuff. You kind of learn that which customers are wasting your time. So you kind of just get that experience after working through it. Of course, it took mistakes. There were mistakes that I made that just wasted me so much time, wasted me like entire days, and giving away free stuff, just wasting time and money. But you know that afterwards that some things you just don't do, some things you're just wasting your time. But I really have to go out there, and you really have to go out there and just experience it on your own, because otherwise you're not going to get smarter by just not making mistakes. So my first year was a lot of work, a lot of time, persistence, uncertainty. I remember like just, after every day, it's just like, I'm not sure if I'm going to make enough money to actually just keep covering myself. And it was a tough feeling, because you don't know who you'll be able to talk to and who experiences the same stuff. So you really just have to keep working through it. I think if I had somebody who had the same experience and made it further along the entrepreneurial journey and told me that, if you just keep working through it, you don't have to doubt what you're doing too much, I think that would have really helped. I hope this really helps you, because if you're in the same boat as I was, and you're really just feeling uncertain about the future, I hope that I will be, just based on my own experience, if you just keep working hard, learn from your mistakes, and you don't really have to feel too uncertain or too scared about the future, because the worst thing that could happen is you probably just go back to a corporate job or go back to another job, which is not that bad, and just keep working on your business. But aside from that, there's just so many gigs out there. There's so many, stuff you can do on the side, just like driving an Uber, or there's like a bunch of other apps out there you can make money off of now too. So, the options are just a lot more abundant, as opposed to 3 years ago. It was like only Uber and Lyft, and maybe like, I don't know, a few other apps out there. But now it's just, I feel like there's so many more options. If something doesn't work out with one app, you can always go somewhere else. So, options are good. You just go out and try them. And it's just like a +1 survival skill under your belt after you try and just experience it and learn about it. So, what else? I think first year, very, very little time to hang out with your friends, especially if you start your own business. I'm not sure I'm sure every one of you who's watching this may have different progresses and different goals. And when I first started my own business, after leaving my corporate job, it was not a lot of progress. So I spent a lot of time making progress. So it was very little time just doing anything else. Very little time having fun. I went from, going out every weekend to maybe going out once a month. So if you guys don't know, that's probably what you're going to be expecting, after you leave your corporate job, which is, you get really busy during the week, and then over the weekend, you tend to have nothing else to really worry about, and you just relax. And that's something I miss. I'll be honest, because I do miss just taking my mind off everything for like 2 days. But when I have my own business, you're constantly kind of thinking about it. It's in the back of your mind because it's really relevant to you. Not that I hate it, because it's relevant to me, and I want to make progress. I don't want my shit to fail. So it's something that's important to you. It's something that's integral part of your life. It's not like a work-life balance, like you get off work and you just could just turn it off. You can't when you have your own business because it was your work and it's basically it's it's your lifeline. So, well, anyway, this concludes my very first year after I left my corporate job. I hope you guys got something out of it. I'll be following up with another video with my second year after I left my corporate job. And I'd love to share my experience with y'all. So I'll see you guys next time.